head over to losingmymind.com to check out our latest song, Genocide. Support our work. Now, onto the show. Joe Biden gives a speech where he says that the dangerous MAGA Republicans, they must be stopped. They're a threat to this country. From the Daily Mail. Republican candidates' kids are almost killed after gunman opens fire at his North Carolina home with bullet landing a few feet from where they slept after Democrat rival filmed campaign ad outside his property. Remember Lee Zeldin? Not only he was attacked on stage. Didn't someone go to his house and there was like a shootout? Was that Zeldin's house?
I think there was a stray bullet that hit his house.
People out in front of his house were shooting and the bullet went in his house.
Yep.
So this is the reality. A bullet landed in Pat Harrigan's Hickory, North Carolina home. I believe it was his parents' home, but his kids were there. His children and parents were inside at the time, but no one was injured. The FBI are now investigating the ballistics, according to a local report. Green Beret Harrigan wears a bulletproof vest and has been targeted by threats. His Democrat opponent, Jeff Jackson, has pulled an ad shot outside his home. Like, come on, dude.
But Tim, Biden says that MAGA Republicans are the biggest threat to our safety.
Is anyone worried that a group, like any sane person worried a group of MAGA Republicans are going to go out and like rampage through a city with masks and fire bombs and Molotovs, fighting with cops?
I'm not. I'm worried about false flags and international corporations doing stuff.
No, the reality is you'll be a Trump supporter driving your truck through a city, waving your little Trump flag, and then you'll park and get out, and some far left psychopath will put 2 bullets in your chest. Or you'll be running for office and somebody will fire a gun into your parents' home, nearly hitting your children. But Joe Biden wants to come out. So I was watching, there's this clip from MSNBC of Bill Maher. Funny, Bill Maher said 2 years ago, civil war can't happen. Now he's saying it is happening. He said that, he's like, it's the right, the violent rhetoric from the right that's making this happen. I mean, there was a drag queen story hour and they attacked it, I guess. And I'm just like, amazing, Bill. Amazing. You have no idea what you're talking about. But to come out and claim that the people who almost never protest are the bigger threat than people who caused over $2 billion in damage during the 5/29 insurrection, forced the president into a bunker, tore down the barricades of the White House, set fire to a guard post, and set fire to St. John's Church, they did nothing wrong, apparently. Is that what you're saying?
And what about the person who tried to kill Kavanaugh, one of our Supreme Court justices? They just act like these things don't ever happen. Like if we went through a whole list of all of the people who have been attacked, like, that young person who was seen in that hospital bed for wearing a MAGA hat. It's like they don't even care about this stuff. They just want to focus on their message, which is that we're a real danger.
Or how about the kid in, where was it? Was it North Dakota? Or where he got run over by the crazy guy?
Oh, yeah.
He said that he was part of a MAGA Republican extremist group, so he ran him down, crushed him.
And then what happened with the charges related to that? Was the person who did it was
he got released on bail? That's right.
Yeah.
But Kyle Rittenhouse, not him. He gets locked up for almost 3 months.
In solitary by himself and in horrible conditions, which he later came on and spoke about.
Think about the Covington Catholic situation. A child on a school field trip was standing, minding his own business, when an adult man walked right up to his face and started banging a drum. And the kid didn't move. And the media took an out-of-context clip of the incident, blamed the kid for it, and these blue checks across Twitter started sending death threats to him. Okay? You get it? Are we supposed to be like, I know you just threatened to throw children into a wood chipper, even though they were the victims, but why don't we come together and have you sit down and have a peaceful conversation? I'll tell you what's funny is we do still invite them. But you need to understand what these people represent.
I'm all about subverting the cultural opponent, but if it was 1936 Nazi Germany and I started screaming about how evil the Nazis were, I'd be the first one up against the wall. So I'm not playing that game right now.
Okay, well, I'd rather be the guy who didn't salute in that crowd of people who were saluting.
I'd rather be Einstein, fled the freakishness and built something awesome.
Bail out, I guess. I don't blame people for fleeing these cities because of that stuff, to be honest.
Built a nuclear weapon that he felt really bad about afterwards.
That's true.
That is now bringing us on the brink of the total destruction of free humanity.
Well, it was coming anyway. Yeah. He was just part of it.
This is actually really funny, real quick, just about World War II is there were a lot of scientists working on fission. Was it fission? Fission. Mm-hmm. And they were Jewish, so they fled. And if Hitler wasn't doing what he was doing they would have had the nukes. That's crazy.
They were working on some crazy technology.
But then the scientists fled, and then we got them, and then we used them.
Flying saucers, like it goes deep. It's crazy. So, sorry, you were
Anyway.
going to say something.
Oh no, I was going to say something about earlier about the kids wearing MAGA hats being attacked. I just think like young people, that's happening not just like college campus level, not just adults, but like little children, which is why I think so many parents are homeschooling now. Like homeschooling's exploded since COVID because they see what they're being taught, and also it's like you can't even be yourself around your friends. You're just going to be bullied by them. Like so many young conservatives I meet just feel like I can't even tell anyone I'm conservative.
They need to, though. That's it. I'm sorry. It's like, do you believe in it or not? Are you going to keep hiding? Because the reality is, with 10 kids, there may be one who's like, I can't tell anybody that I actually feel this way about these politics because they'll bully me. And then it turns out they all feel the same way, and they're all scared of each other and this fake lie that sits on the surface.
I find that there's a tendency people want to build an identity for themselves, young people particularly, and sometimes they'll say like, I am a fill in the blank. I am a liberal, I am a conservative, I am a Republican, I am a Christian, and they'll like define a box with which they lie, and they cannot then, as a result of that, if they step out of it, then they'll start to feel guilt, and then other people will be like, well, I have an idea of what I think that box is, so you're that, I'm going to treat you like that. And it's like you can be conservative and liberal, and you can be a liberal conservative. You don't have to stop. You don't have to hide behind a wall of words or anything.
It wasn't always like this. I still remember a few years ago, it was protesters fighting police officers fighting protesters, but now it's protesters fighting protesters and people getting at each other. And I don't think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but from my experiences, I don't ever remember it being this tumultuous between political parties, between the left wing and the right wing. I don't remember a time in the 90s where people would see each other as political opposites and then really want to harm each other. I think we have escalated to this state, which is worrisome and is only escalating because of just the nonsense being pushed on by the corporate media and big tech social media, which is being controlled by, of course, the intelligence agencies that are calling the shots on what we see. So, I don't know. Was there a time where there was this much? I mean, obviously we had a civil war in this country, but that was a very long time ago. But in recent history, what got us here? How are we here at this point where you can't even openly talk about politics?
I was really outspoken about my dislike for George Bush Jr.'s war in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I would just talk directly to George. I'm still talking to you, man, on the internet. Listen up, dude. But I never had animosity towards Republicans. I didn't care who you voted for. If I just wanted to help you, enlighten you. Look at there were no weapons of mass destruction. That was a lie. They lied to get us into Iraq. Look, and then people are like, oh, okay. Okay. And if you're reasonable and you're not angry, I'm not angry people. I'm actually enjoying enlightening people. They tend to go for it. I think it was like you're saying that it was big tech because it was in 2012 Facebook when they started sending the violence to the top of the algorithmic feed, a shooting, and then you'd see, and then that would get 60,000 retweets or likes or whatever. And because it was popular, they pushed it, and then it became more popular. And it's easy to hate. It's real challenging to love. It takes a lot of humility.
We want to try and talk to regular people who aren't super political. We want people to hear a message that pulls them from the cult. But I don't think that means we go to cult leaders and beg them to have a conversation with us because they would only exploit it to expand their cult.
Yeah, I tend to have the conversation with them, and if they're just believe that they're listening, whether they're there or not, whether they respond or not. I said my piece, you heard it, and then I expect nothing. I don't expect a response or anything like that. But at least you say your piece. You directly confront who you want to confront and explain yourself.
And I feel like the left became really radical under Obama because when it was, Clinton, Bush, it was kind of like they were in the same club. They were two, very elitist people. They both kind of had similar views on things, honestly. I feel like America was much more of a center place, which in a way it's okay, good, less arguments and stuff like now, but also bad because we're not actually changing things that much. It's like everybody in this one class is in the, political elite. But then when Obama came, I think he was the first one who was a true ideologue who was really had this far left wing agenda. And the Republicans at the time were no Obama. And then people thought, oh, there's going to be hope, there's going to be change, we're going to be so united, racism is going to be gone because there's going to be this black president. And then, of course, things only got worse. They only made the tensions even worse, and they didn't actually solve anything. So then I think when Trump came along, we were like, oh my gosh, like we have to counter the things happening there. And I do think normal people, like you were saying, want to discuss things with other people. Like all the time, I'll talk to someone, you know, I grew up in California who's liberal. We'll talk about stuff. But I think like the famous people, like you were saying, who are these radical leftists, it's like, yeah, they're not going to have their minds changed as much by talking.
They're making money. Changing their minds is bad for business.
When you're making money for espousing your beliefs, it's kind of reinforces the beliefs, whether they're right or wrong. And people will believe wrong beliefs too if they like you, if you're charismatic.
We have a show where we invite, we try to have these people on. We've had a few progressives who I think were cool, and I'm glad they came on. Jen Perlman, she's great. Progressive, was running in Florida, and we disagreed on a lot of things, but it's really cool.
She's
to have
awesome
someone,
too, Jen.
Yeah,
like Jen.
She was super cool. Took pictures and
good conversation where we actually got to find out where they're coming from and what led them to the decisions and thoughts and ideas that they have. And I think we need more of that.
But here's the thing. Someone like Jen becomes someone like Tulsi, where it's like you have these ideas and beliefs. You end up you try to talk with people and say, we need to solve these problems. You come on a show like Timcast IRL and we go, well, we disagree with those ideas. And they're like, but I'm glad we had the conversation. And then the left calls that person far right and says they're a conservative now. And so the media writes that I'm a conservative, and conservatives absolutely are like, there's no way Tim's a conservative. Like, just absolutely not. But the media will just say it because they want to taint the well. They want to poison the well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, my goal, what I want to see happen is a decentralized network, individuals all discussing these ideas, the best rise to the top. We solve our problems because everyone's working towards solving them. The problem with many of these establishment elites, uniparty elites, left-wing cultists, is that they just think they're smarter and better than you. Bloomberg says tax the poor because we're smarter and we know better. That's what the mentality that guides them, which means they will lie for the sake of gaining power. And then the worst part is they will lie claiming it's you who's lying. It's like that riddle where you come to a fork in the road and there's two guys standing on each side. One always lies, one always tells the truth. But they both accuse each other of being the one who's trying to, do you wrong, because one's telling you the truth and one's lying.
And that's like the idea of the better men that are like, we need a Senate because if the masses can decide with mob mentality, they'll wreck the country. So we need a group of more intelligent, more educated people that are there as a stopgap.
You're overthinking it.
But it's like, it's to the extreme now where people think I'm a better man. I know better than you. And maybe there are people that are just destroyed psychologically on sugar and they're incapable of leading. I don't know.
You're partly right about the better men thing with the Senate, but I think that was a quote from one person. The idea of the federal Senate being appointed by state legislature, by the state representatives, or the state Senate, I think it was between the two of them, is that we vote in our state. We, the people, we have our state. Then the states send their representatives to the federal government. The Senate represents the states. So it is up to the state to decide who represents them. So the state would vote for the person. Get it?
Yeah.
And then the 17th Amendment changed that, and I think that was a huge mistake. We were better off when people had to know who their local politicians were. You see these ads about, Congress, and they're like, if you vote for me, I'll clean up the city. And I'm like, no, you won't. You're going to D.C. Mm-hmm. And you go to D.C. and you're going to vote on foreign policy, taxes, and guns and stuff, which is good. We need you to do it. But if you want to see your streets cleaned up, you got to vote for your local politicians. People don't know that. And this nationalization of politics has actually eroded the country and turned it into some, I don't know what you'd call it. The problem, whatever it is today with the establishment elites, it's because of how we've changed things.
Yeah. You don't want your senators beholden to your commoners. You want your senators beholden only to the state legislature, if anybody, I think. And I'm saying it tongue in cheek, but it's kind of true. Like, you don't want the mob to tell the Senate what to do. The Senate's there to protect us from the mob.
We have Congress. The people have Congress. And they go and represent your district to the federal government. And then the senators represent the states. That's why each state has two, no matter what the population size is. Even Delaware, which is microscopic, and Rhode Island, which is also microscopic. And I love when they come out and they're like, when Montana gets two senators, and I'm like, yeah, Delaware gets two senators too. Come on. I know they have cities and they have like 1 million or whatever people, but don't come at me and complain about the size of. I'd argue that Wyoming and Montana should have more votes because of how much land mass they control and the resources that are available there. One tiny small city, Providence, and all of a sudden they get two senators.
It's kind of like the social media admins are acting like an unelected Senate. These corporate, like how are they able to veto what we say in public?
They have more power than senators, I think, and probably most governments, like Google, YouTube, like they're a monopoly. they literally control probably the speech and what people see of like millions of people. I mean, not to mention, Facebook, Twitter, all of these other things. And I mean, hopefully things get better, but I do think that a lot of this is going to be like mind control as long as people are so focused on devices, which is why I think people should absolutely not give their kids like an iPad just to look at all day.
How many hours? Oh, what were you, last thing you say?
No. I was just going to say, I think that at first we thought, oh, wow, technology, amazing. All of these things are happening. This is great, which is great. I get to talk to my family in India. Like, wow, so many changes from just one generation. But I do think there are so many harmful effects, and you can't just have this like unlimited addiction to technology.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.